Hi, I'm Kirsten Chuba. Thank you for joining us here today. And I'm going to bring out our panelists, Kevin Patel and Wawa Gatheru.
Great.
So I know, Wawa, you were just out here, but do you two kind of want to introduce yourselves a little and let everyone know who you are?
Go first.
Hey, y'all. I'm Wawa. Never met any of you before. And I'm honestly, in this panel, I'm coming at it as a huge fan of climate storytelling and hopefully getting to nerd out with you all over some of my favorite examples of that.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Kevin J. Patel. I wear many different hats. I'm a EMA activist board member, a youth climate commissioner for the board that for the youth commission that I started here in LA County, a nonprofit founder of One Up Action International, really accelerating and implementing climate solutions. As you can see, many different hats, but yeah, happy to be in conversation with Wawa, my good friend, and Kristen.
Yeah, so before we kind of dive into your picks for the best climate stories, what are we kind of defining as TV and movies that have kind of environmental, like what are we kind of defining as our guidelines here?
Yeah, I'd say media that just has an accurate depiction of our world, which is climate as the backdrop. The Good Energy Playbook. I don't know if is the Good Energy Playbook here today?
They are.
Where?
Allison and Allie.
Hello. So also go find them to get more, information beyond what I'm going to talk about. But the Good Energy Playbook actually recently partnered up with USC's Impact Lab to actually look at TV and film scripts released between 2016 and 2020 and found that only 2.8% of all of those scripts included any climate terms or climate related information. And actually in the research study, you can go on and see exactly what those things were. I'll give you the time to do that. But essentially it's media that's including climate themes. It doesn't have to be super explicit as a natural disaster's happening, but underlying within the framework of the storyline, climate just being present the way that it's present in our lives now.
Yeah, if I may add to that, 2.8% of all films from 2016, an analysis of 2016 to 2020, right? Or 2020, yeah. And that's 37,453 films that they analyzed. 2.8% that used climate wordage or even mentioned climate or had a climate theme. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, so we're picking the 10 best here, so you each are going to do 5.
Yeah.
Who wants to start it off?
I guess, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the easy one, An Inconvenient Truth. But I'll tell you a little bit about my story with The Inconvenient Truth. I saw the film the first time when I was 6 years old, which is kind of crazy. My art teacher was really, really into environmentalism, and honestly was probably one of the first environmentalists that I met growing up. And throughout our, art class, you would put on any type of film and just tell us to draw with our emotions. And I remember watching the film and I was so frightened and intrigued. As a Gen Z person where climate change has just been the backdrop of my life since understanding the world. One of my first memories was Hurricane Katrina and seeing my family, in front of the television screen crying. An Inconvenient Truth really stands out as the first piece of media that I can remember watching, pausing, and thinking about, and going home and talking to my parents about it. And I remember them being kind of surprised that I was talking about global warming or climate change. And I think what's really interesting is when I talk to a lot of other people about the first piece of media that they interacted with around climate and the environment, it's oftentimes An Inconvenient Truth. And I think even yesterday hearing in regards to extrapolations and, even the thread of there being a connection there, it just is such a powerful medium that has led to a lot of people getting more knowledgeable on the issues and then also creating other forms of media that have been inspired by it.
Okay, Kevin, you want to go?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna throw it way back from when, I was a little kid. The Lorax was such an inspirational film for me, and a movie that kind of got me thinking about, protecting forests and trees and plants and animals. And I think when we think about deforestation and overconsumption and these themes, they're not, throughout film, they showcase it so well. And I think one of the things is like, while watching the Lorax, I was able to go into my own community. I grew up here in Los Angeles in a community called South LA, and just being able to kind of visualize the issues that are happening in my community and being able to tie them back to what is happening in a film. And that was like when I was 5, right? These films are, climate storytelling is so important to kind of inspire us to act, to be willing to be, see something on screen and take that, and sit with it for a bit and kind of comprehend what we can do, right? And kind of be inspired to take action. I think the Lorax was that starting point for me to kind of critically analyze what is going on in our world. What are the ways in which we can take action and be inspired to make impact?
That's a throwback. I haven't thought about Lorax in a while. Wawa.
For my Ted Lasso fans out here, if anyone has seen the recent first episode this past Wednesday, I'm very envious. That's what I'm going to be watching on my flight back home. But Ted Lasso is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. But also the character Sam Obisanya, who those of y'all that have watched Ted Lasso know that he's a fan favorite for a number of reasons. He's just so sweet, so talented, but also the environmental themes that he has in his character and that have just been woven so well and seamlessly has really distinguished him, in my opinion, as one of the best representations of environmentalists that I saw growing up. So one of my other favorite shows was That's a Raven, which is not one of, yes, but this is not one of my picks. I remember Chelsea, Chelsea with her environmental
That
thread,
episode
where it was kind
she changed herself to a tree.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh my God!
But they kind of spun it as her. They kind of spun it as her being quirky on the side of weird. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of the representation that I saw growing up in Disney and Nickelodeon was it. I don't want to say it was kind of poking fun at it, but it kind of was. Mm-hmm. And I still love Chelsea. Shout out to my girl. But something that I really loved about Sam in comparison was the fact that, specifically in episode 3, season 2, where he learned about, I'm a big fan, y'all, where he was given the opportunity to do a brand deal with Dubai Air, and then, told his dad, oh, should I be saying all this? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And as, told his dad, who is, a really socially conscious individual that's understanding the social and political circumstances in Nigeria, and his dad informing him that cerithium oil, which was, supposed to represent Shell, was actually the major funder behind Dubai Air. And Sam, not knowing that information, taking the time to educate himself and thus actually acting by staging a protest on the field and having tape over the logo, and then having his teammates really showcase the solidarity of standing there with him, then the solidarity from our amazing man Ted Lasso of letting him have the space at the press release to talk about the connections between cerithium oil and impacts of environmental degradation in Nigeria. You have all these elements of someone taking the time to educate themselves, educate others, the importance of solidarity, friendship, and doing this work. And then also, it was just a part of who he was. He was just Sam Obisanya, the very sweet, caring, cute guy that also is an environmentalist, and I thought that was really well done. And also him being a Black environmentalist was really cool. For me, that was the first time I'd seen that. So in addition to him being my fictional crush, I was
That's a good one. Okay, Kevin.
Yeah, I just want to kind of piggyback. I think it's so important, to see representation in a way. If, you got to see that in Ted Lasso, and I think one of the things is we're still missing that representation bit, right? When we think about people of color in climate storytelling or the entertainment or movie or even on screen, right? For any writers in here, make sure you tell stories or write scripts that tell unheard and unseen experiences, not just through the trauma bit, right, but through joy, through happiness. And I'm so happy that we're able to kind of have that in Ted Lasso, where we're able to see a Black environmentalist. I'd love to see more representations of indigenous people represented in that way, South Asians and other people of color, right, be represented in that light. And so I think just wanted to kind of piggyback off of that
And
representation
even
bit.
connecting it to historical figures because, the instance with Cerithium oil and Shell, I made a video about this, and the actor reached out to me, and he was like, thank you for making this video, because behind the scenes, I actually was one of the people that helped push that storyline forward, because he was aware of the legacy of Ken Saro-Wiwa, who was a Nigerian environmental activist that unfortunately was murdered by the Nigerian government for his role in, protecting and being an advocate for the indigenous peoples out there. And hearing that was, whoa, like, you really in the thick of it can help make those transitions, but also you don't have to start from zero. Like, there are examples from history that you can lean on and really echo within your storylines, and the opportunities are endless, really.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna butcher this, film's name, but Princess Mononoke, right? I just, rewatching it like 2 months ago was really impactful for me, because I think we sometimes forget that our connection to nature. I have had a lot of conversations throughout the day about, we are nature. Indigenous peoples, our elders, the people I've talked to, always say that we're connected. We're connected to nature. We were never disconnected, but we're ignorant in the fact that, that we don't see that connection, that we don't feel that connection. And I think it's more or less that film really kind of showed me the relationship between nature and humans, and how industrialization and all these themes kind of play a part of destroying our connection to nature, and the ways in which we can get it back. So, yeah, I think that would be my second pick.
Are we doing these in order, or are we?
No, we're just throwing them out there at this point.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was a preference. Okay, 3 more each. Wawa.
The Emperor's New Groove's a good one. My mom's band, there's 4 of us growing up, so we chose 3 movies that we really loved. One of them's Ice Age, which also is a good example. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about it later. But the 3 movies that we'd watch over and over again in the cassettes was Ice Age, Emperor's New Groove, and The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid was all me. But also that's kind of, anyways, but with The Emperor's New Groove, actually our friend Leah Thomas, who was here yesterday, yes, she made a video about this recently that got me thinking, the whole premise really was around displacement, right? There's a family that was being asked to move because, you had a rich, emperor that really liked the hill that they were on and wanted to build on top of it. And the whole, the themes in the movie of him being turned into a llama and understanding the circumstances of people that he had just never, put himself in the shoes of, and really getting to cultivate a sense of friendship and solidarity with folks, and then ending in him ultimately, obviously not building that on top of folks' home. I think making the connections between displacement, making the connections between also green gentrification as being a huge issue. So for those of you that aren't aware of what green gentrification is, it's gentrification in a climate future, or gentrification that is working, that ends up happening when, for instance, a EJ community works to, green a space, for instance, or make it more inhabitable or livable. And then developers are like, ooh, okay, now this plot of land or this community that was previously known as a sacrifice zone is actually feasible for other people to come in. So bringing in all these new benefits, and then, selling, buying out areas and selling it to other folks that are now pricing out the individuals that may have like advocated for that place to be more livable. And so like that movie, I think, has a lot of fertile ground for jumpstarting those conversations and making those links in a children's film.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's amazing. Like that. I used to watch it when I was a little kid. I'm like, connections. Another one, a throwback. That I can think of. I'm gonna stick with Disney films. I don't know why. Wall-E. Yeah, all of y'all out there watch Wall-E.
Is Wally Disney?
Well, I think it's Disney, or it's Pixar, right?
Yeah,
It's
Pixar.
Pixar. Pixar is owned by Disney, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, wait. Either way, I think that Wall-E kind of taught us about the state of leisure and ignorance, right? What are ways that that we have gone about to create overconsumption, waste, pollution? These themes really are underlying in the film. And one of the, I think one stark thing that I learned out of it, without love, without compassion, without empathy, we will always kind of be in this state of leisure and complacency and ignorance. And I think with films like this a lot of kids, even my generation, I think, can learn, while even if it's not displayed as that, right? It's not told, hey, we have a ignorance problem, we have a leisure problem. We can kind of explore the themes of ways to be more compassionate with one another, with our earth. And I think it gets back into that connection of like, how are we connected with one another? And it's also a love story between Wall-E and Eva, right? Eva. So it teaches about love. It teaches about how to protect our planet. Although it's set in a future Earth that is completely destroyed by pollution and waste. It teaches us that we can regenerate what we have already destroyed. Only if we are willing to go ahead and see it, act on it, and be willing to come in a way that is, beautiful. I think I'm gonna go ahead and, today we have had a lot of powerful speakers, and Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali really kind of made us all get up and see eye to eye next to us who's here in this room. While many of us don't know each other, a lot of us got connected by holding each other's hands. And I think that connection bit is so important as well, and I think that is what climate storytelling can do. And I think that's what Wall-E and all these other films have done for me.
Okay, 2 more.
Sex Life of College Girls. What a fantastic show, am I right? Let's just say we need more, it's not super climatey, but let me just say it. We need more shows about like women in college, because it's always like high school or like after I'm like, we exist, okay? Or, that's past my time now, but I would still love to see that, and I'm really seeing that in that show. But this was an example, I think, of a climate theme just kind of being presented, where I watched it and then I replayed it and I was like, oh, that was smart, Mindy. But basically, I think this was in the past season 2, the really hot guy. Remember which one? I know all the guys on the show were just like, okay, anyway, let me stop. I think it was Jackson.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, right. But remember Jackson actually transferred because of a natural disaster in his community. And Kimberly at one point was like, was it Kimberly? Someone was like, is he a climate refugee? And I was like, that's really interesting because, the term climate refugee is one that, still isn't totally recognized, at least at a federal level. Even in international law, it's still, not necessarily one that is recognized under the refugee status in the same way that it definitely needs to with climate change becoming even more of a reason that people are forcefully having to leave their homes. But I thought that was a really smart way to educate people on what that term meant, even though I think one of the characters was like, don't say that, that's kind of rude. But, you know, the fact that the character actually he technically was a climate migrant of having to move within the United States because I think his previous storm was completely destroyed. And the reality is that instances like that, if they haven't already, which they have actually, where people have had to move from colleges because of, you know, a natural disaster, let alone just having to leave their communities, that's very real. So I think that was another example where even myself as a climate person, it made me chuckle, the comedy theme right there, but it also had a lot of truth, and it was just a really good example for me.
Yeah. Wow. I guess my last two, I'm just going to say them, given that we don't have that much time. It would have to be, I will go from, you know, one that, because I focus on biodiversity quite a lot now, and really kind of seeing the impacts of deforestation and conservation and just all these, you know, what we as humans are doing to biodiversity. I would say Epic it's an animated film, and it was released in 2013. It follows this girl named Mary, and she's transported into this magical realm of protecting leaf men, and against the evil forces that are wanting to completely annihilate the forest and get rid of it so it can be dark. I say this because I'm saying this for for kids. You know, we all have family members that might have kids, or you may have children yourself, but that's why I'm going this animation route, right? But it kind of evokes us like to remember what we're trying to protect, right? Biodiversity and conservation. And then to the extremes, Mad Max, Fury Road, really kind of shows us the resource depletion and, you know, societal collapse and just very extremes of what can happen if we don't, you know, pay attention and we don't act. And I think in the storytelling bit, right, in climate storytelling, I already said it, it invokes a lot of emotions. We're able to really kind of inspire action by seeing what's on screen and invoking not only emotion, but invoking empathy. And everyone in this room can be, you know, sparked by your curiosity. Oh my God, I'm like forgetting the word. Sparking this like emotion in you to figure out more about these issues. Whatever you see on screen, you're gonna be like, oh, what's going on? Let me look into this. You know, real life examples, or what's going on in my own community? How can I do more? And inspire action. And I think that is such, you know, that's the beauty of storytelling. But I think also there's this quote that I wanted to mention by Dorothy Fortenberry. And thank you for the impact and good energy, Allison and Allie, for giving me this quote. It says, if climate isn't in your story, it is science fiction, right? Every film and every movie, television, anything that's on screen, even social media, has to be about climate. We have to integrate climate into our lives. At the end of the day, this is one of the most consequential issues of our lifetime. It is already affecting me. It is already affecting my family. It's already affecting all of your families. It is already affecting you guys, even if you don't see it. I think that is one of the most important things when we're thinking about entertainment, when we're thinking about, you know, even movies and TVs. We have to think about the ways in which we all make a difference, the ways in which we all can create impact. Do it intentionally, right? Go into it, you know, how can I make a difference in the field that I am in? Whether I be an actress or an actor or just someone that has privilege and power, right? We all have the ability to make change. It's whether we want to actually take that voice inside of us that is just aching to get out and just do it, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I find climate storytelling to be an interesting interesting topic.
All All right, one last one.
See, I was gonna do the Ice Age, but this is such low-hanging fruit. But I've only seen one episode, and I'm not gonna say exactly what went on. But extrapolations, I'm really excited to watch the first 3 episodes when they drop tomorrow. What I will say is, it's very interesting as someone that's been doing this work since I was 15 years old and have been to several COPs. In this episode, seeing like the actual lanyard of a COP years in advance immediately made me really emotional, because I went to my first COP, I think I was 17 years old, and I was just so excited to be there. And then when I got there, so frustrated, because also the year that I went was right after the US had pulled out of the Paris Accords. So the energy was very interesting, I'll say that. And seeing a physical representation of a lanyard of a COP years in the future and knowing that I'll likely be there. There aren't many times where I watch like a climate film or TV show, the few that are out there, where it makes me, as someone in the advocacy and climate activist space, feel like, okay, I walked away and I said, there's so much more work to be done, because I don't want to have to be in that space. I don't want to have to be saying the same thing when I think I calculated I was like 40 something, which isn't that far off. But, it just made me really, it invoked something in me that surprised me. And that's as someone that's surrounded by climate stuff. And I felt like it was a very powerful thing to experience, and it even served as a reminder in a lot of ways of why we do the work that we do. That's really cryptic, but
If I may, I just want to add that that's literally how I felt watching it, because we went to the premiere and I was just like blown away how real it felt, right? Yeah, I've been to COPs and I also have the blue lanyard. They give you a blue lanyard, and it's like, it's just so unreal at the end of the day, seeing it on screen and then being able to visualize yourself there at that moment. Are we going to continue having these conversations about taking action, or are we going to be inspired to take action? Yeah. Right? It's one thing to say that, yes, these films and these TV shows and movies can inspire us to take action, but are we willing to do it? Or is it where we continue having these conversations and inspiring, saying that we have solutions. We've had the solutions for decades. And if we really wanted to, we would start implementing them.
Well, you guys have talked about such a range here, but what do you kind of see as the most effective form of like climate storytelling? Because there's such a range. They can be end of the world things, they can be inspiring, they can be comedies, kind of Trojan horsing comedy or climate issues in. So what do you kind of think about the most effective way?
Ooh, there's a lot of effective ways to, talk about climate storytelling. I think one of the things is my generation, Generation Z, and even younger generations are moving away from traditional media, right? And they're going into these forms of content creation. And so when we're thinking about making content or writing stories and telling stories, I think we have to do it in a light that is new, right? That we're able to invoke this generation that is, using, viewing movies and TV in different formats and kind of showcasing in a way that tells their story. I would love to see South Asian representation. I would love to see more representation of people of color and other identities within this movie and TV, space, or the entertainment industry in general. Because we don't see it as often, right? And I think the entertainment industry and the movie industry and the TV industry, I'm sorry, I'm like saying that because I can say climate storytelling, I can say movies and TVs, but I think we have a precipice, right, where we can kind of see where a lot of young people are really wanting to have their stories be told. It's it's whether or not we kind of have these writers and people who are willing to do it, do it in a way that's really fast. And yeah, I know there's some great resources, the Hollywood Climate Summit, Good Energy, Impact, and even EMA, is, I think we're all of us collectively can really change the conversation and kind of move climate storytelling to the new frontier.
I have a quick proposition. I think like there's always conversations on how to diversify your writer's room. When it comes to climate storytelling, bring climate activists in the space. There's so much that we can contribute. And I think also this applies to when it comes down to filming. Something that was, I don't know why I didn't bring them up, but another one on the list was Beasts of Southern Wild. And something that was so cool about that film and being such an explicit like climate fantasy almost was in regards to the folks, cast and crew. There were so many folks from a small community in Louisiana. And I think when it comes down to like climate storytelling and having it be, a 360 situation, place-based relationships are so important. So getting the community involved, whether that be as cast and crew, whether that be in the writer's room, really making sure that that relationship and expertise is really coming through and shining through.
All right, well, I think that's our time. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.